Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're coming in from. We would like to welcome you today to Showcare's Ask Our Showcarians, all about sponsor and exhibitor FOMO. I will be your host today. My name is Jillian Cardinal, and I am community manager with Showcare. So we are going to be together for the next 45 minutes for this live conversation all about creating sponsor and exhibitor FOMO, but not necessarily in the way that we typically define FOMO. So before we jump into that, I would love to see in the chat who's here today. So please introduce yourself. Where are you coming in from? Who are you? What city are you from? Let us know. Let's get that chat going because this is your event. And just so you know, in our chat today, we're going to be joined by Darren Miller, one of our Showcarians, and he will be interacting with you throughout our event. So to really get that chat going, we also want to raffle off a few books. And Darren's going to tell you a bit more about that during our event as well, based on the themes that we're going to be discussing. So as you're introducing yourself, I already see we have Sina coming in. Welcome, Sina. Thanks so much for joining us. As you're introducing yourself, we'd like to say why we're calling it Ask Our Showcarians. So we identify as Showcarians, but we also feel that you, our community, are Showcarians as well. And as you know, we put out a survey before to collect some of your questions, your stories, your ideas. And we're going to be speaking on a bunch of them throughout our journey today. And you'll be meeting some of our greater Showcarian community as well. So we're excited to have the conversation on the screen. We're excited to have the conversation going on in the chat. And to those who are watching after the event, we would love to keep that conversation going over on social media and at future events. So as far as FOMO, how we're defining that is not necessarily in the shiny, sparkly bells and whistles, I have to make that rush decision, but more so as far as having those conversations with key stakeholders, with your sponsors, with your exhibitors, and knowing what their goals are, what their objectives are, what their KPIs are. And then you as an organizer, looking at everything that your event has to offer, your platform has to offer, your community has to offer, and then marrying those goals together to create the ultimate experience. So we're going to want to hear in the chat as far as, do you feel that you're leveraging all the opportunities available to you? Have you been doing some unique different sorts of sponsorship possibilities? You know, put those in the chat, share them with the community as well. We'd love to hear what you're thinking. And our goal is that by the end of this conversation, you're going to be thinking in a different way than perhaps that traditional visibility approach when it comes to sponsorship. Banners, tiles, ads, they absolutely have a place. But what about as far as content? What about as far as thought leadership? What about as far as experiential offerings? You know, and really looking at all of this to create these FOMO-inducing customizable packages for your sponsors and exhibitors, and the hopes that even your exhibitors are going to turn into future sponsors. So, let's see, in our chat, we also have Saurav who's joining us. So welcome in, Saurav. And we have our Showcarian friend, Wanda, joining in. Welcome, Wanda. Awesome to see you all. So today I'm going to be joined by some Showcarians who are bringing in their experience from the supplier side, from the sponsor side, from the sales side, from the marketing side. So every single aspect of the journey. And we're going to learn from their experiences as well as yours. So how we can create those FOMO-inducing sponsorship and exhibitor packages. So without further ado, I am going to first bring to the virtual stage Eric Noel. He is the CMO and CCO of Inventive.
Nice to meet you all.
Next coming up is Melissa Mercadante. She is the VP of Marketing here at Showcare. And next and last but not least is Robert Kozub. He is the CEO of Showcare.
Good morning, everybody.
Well, I am joined by a fantastic group. And we've got some more Showcarians in the audience. Hello, Anton down in DC. And we are so excited to be chatting with all of you. So we're not going to be doing the traditional bio route. My friend Darren is going to be posting our LinkedIn profiles throughout the event, and we would love to connect with you offline. You can learn more about us that way. We're going to jump right in because we absolutely love doing that. So as a way to introduce yourself, and we're going to start with Robert, what would be your best advice to organizers as they develop their sponsorship strategy? Robert.
Thank you, Jillian. Right off the bat, audience, knowing your audience. I've seen it and heard it so many times. Not using the historical data that organizers have. That is king. We all know about it. We heard about it. Yet when I talked with some of these organizers, I had so much opportunities in the last 15 months to talk to over 100 shows, and they never used the data from the past or was using the same old data. Elaborate, open up the questions to find out what age group are your people, what's their interest. And we've seen that by using that information, then sharing that with the sponsors and saying, this is your group of people that seems to be will be attending your audience, you can position or package their sponsorship package in a so much different way. We see results happening, non-traditional to the new tradition has been making a lot of difference in the sponsorship world. The money is there, so much money is being left on the table. And by just changing the approach and sharing with the sponsors and asking the sponsors to get involved, it's shown a huge difference. So know your audience, use that.
Yeah, and starting that conversation early. And we're going to definitely explore that from the different perspectives of how we can really maximize and optimize them as part of the event journey, the event design, and the event strategy. Thank you, Robert. Melissa, what would be your response as far as developing these sponsorship strategies?
I would say create an ongoing relationship with your sponsors. It's really important, like pre-event, make sure you're spending time with them, understanding their goals, what type of opportunities they're most interested in. During the event, make sure that they're taking full advantage of all the opportunities available to them, guide them on the best way to engage with your attendees for sure. And then after the event, you should be providing a report with results, take the time to go through it with them, ask them how it could be improved, how their experience could be improved, and apply that feedback to future packages that you tailor for them.
Absolutely. So the event journey also ties into the sponsorship and exhibitor journey. So it's that continuity, that pre, during, that post for everyone involved for how they can maximize their experience. Awesome. And last but not least, Eric, what would be your 2 cents there?
Well, my 2 cents, it's about managing expectations. As I've sponsored a lot of events during my career, but I think that getting that conversation early on and ask the sponsor, what is your ROI? What are your KPIs basically? And what the sponsor is looking for exactly. So on top of the pitch of the event, of course, but make sure that your sponsor is really, their KPIs are really clear and you do understand them. The other thing might be also the data that will be provided to the sponsor prior, during, and after the event, post-event. What kind of data I'm going to get? Names, details, information about the people at the event. That is super important for me. So just to make sure that maybe next year I'll reinvest in the event because you provided me the first year, let's say, that we sponsored an event, let's say. Then the second year, if I had good data on the first year, then I'll sponsor the second year, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And then the data as well. It's not just a list, so to speak, and we're going to dive into this a bit more, but really getting to know who that audience is and what their values are, different audience segments, personas, etc. So you can really leverage that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fantastic. So that ties into the next question. So Melissa, I'll throw this to you as far as how should organizers approach developing their sponsor and exhibitor packages from the get-go in a more unique sort of way than how they might have been approaching it before?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's time that we, move away from these traditional tiered packages that we've seen, the gold, silver, bronze, where it's already set up for the sponsors. I think you need to be flexible and nimble, make sure that you can adapt to what they're looking for, and think about creative opportunities as well that would be of interest to them. You really want to design a sponsorship that they want, not just something that you've put together ahead of time. So the way I would suggest doing it is really listing it out like an a la carte menu almost of all the different opportunities. Let them pick and choose, and then you can always organize them into tiers based on the amount that they spend. That way, you can still maintain those gold level, silver level, but it won't be as packaged in a sense. It'll be very customizable, and I think that's what people are really looking for.
I love that, because it kind of almost, it doesn't throw it on its head per se. It's still familiar as far as the silver, gold, platinum. However, they're kind of choosing their own adventure. So what would actually, knowing their goals, knowing their objectives, what would actually help them to meet that, choosing what's most appropriate based on that, and then designing their experience along with the organizer. That's super worthwhile. And I'm just going to throw in the chat, put a 1. Have you been creating a la carte options for your sponsors and exhibitors, or have you been sticking more with the traditional models as far as silver, gold, platinum, thinking of the order right there, in that sense, and it's kind of just a set package? So let us know in the chat with a 1 if you've been going as far as new a la carte, or a 2 if you've been sticking with more that traditional model, and we'll see what you have to say there. So now we have these different sorts of options for our sponsors and for our exhibitors. So Robert, I'm going to throw this over to you. How would you suggest going about promoting these organizers and sponsorship exhibitor packages?
Throw it to me, Jillian. Okay.
Lob.
Again, we're kind of touching on it in promoting it. Maybe if I just tell you what I've had in the past, when you're talking with the sponsors, I've taken the liberty of spending time with them and asking the questions. And basically, I think even Eric mentioned it before, if you're not touching any of their objectives or their KPIs or key takeaways, they're not going to come back. So you have to understand what's in it for them, and how you're going to give them at least one of those 3 ideas or those takeaways. And if you don't bring that into the package, or don't surround us around them, they will not take the value. And like Eric said, I'm not going to come back. So we need that one ingredient that's in there that's going to bring the momentum and bring the whole thing together. So it's not a one formula fits all for everything. It's sitting down and understanding. Again, you're going back to your audience, going back to the people you have, and going and bringing your sponsors and exhibitors into the event to show them the value you can add to it. So making them part of it will just bring will probably encourage people to stay on the platform longer and see more sessions, because now they're getting involved. It's not a sales pitch. It's all to do with educating and getting the best value out of it.
Which is a fantastic tie-in to actually Sarab's question right here. So how can sponsors and exhibitors be included in the event's agenda? Do they struggle with content creation for events? So as far as that, again, kind of with what you were saying right there, Robert, hearing the pain points as well from the audience, hearing what they're most interested in seeing. And Eric, I'm going to throw this over to you as far as getting to know that audience. And, perhaps would you be able to share a story where you had that sort of situation where you were able to offer your thought leadership to better enhance the overall agenda of the event?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a quick one. We're a tech company, and we did digital transformation for a mental health product or digital product online, and it was for suicidal prevention. And really proud of that. We spent a lot of time in the millions of dollars in that platform for the province of Quebec. And so I was sponsoring an event, and it was in Quebec, obviously. And I said, hey, we got this amazing case study for you guys. And it's a digital transformation, the theme of the event. And, I would like to get some exposure. But unfortunately, the sales team and the content team of the event, the producers, were off track, and they were not working together. And I came in too late, as a sponsor. And they said, well, the content team already decided on what was the list of all the different content that were showing all the sessions and whatnot. And I said, yeah, but this is an amazing case study. We have hundreds of thousands of people going into that platform right now, and it's kind of good, you know. And I was not bragging about the company or how we do things. It was really about, you know, the mental health issue, which is, you know, really an up to date topic. So they said no. So I was really black. So I still sponsored the event. But then after that, about like a month after the event, we won a huge award in the industry regarding that platform. And the phone started to ring, and other events started to say, hey, this is crazy. This is wow. This platform's amazing. Would you like to have a session in our event? And we got invited to show off our case study and into that event. So I'm really happy. So I just wanted to emphasize on the fact that the sales team and the content team, they really need to speak with the sponsor and make sure that the sponsor is not throwing out a sales pitch, but really good case studies, because this is what the attendees are looking for. Real good down to earth case studies. There's research or digital transformation or whatever the topic is. When you have a really good case study, it's totally worth it for the attendees and the sponsor. So it makes a good win-win.
And I'm not sure if you saw, Eric, but that literally, you might be psychic. So Sina had asked a very similar question. So how can we as event planners, event organizers, make sure that sponsors don't just do a sales pitch? Because we know we have attended those types of sessions. How can we educate them that this is not the right way to do that? So do you want to add a slight bit of a follow-up as far as that conversation of what that would look like, so that everyone feels like their goals and objectives are being met, yet while still being respectful to the audience as far as what they want to hear?
Absolutely. So I think my best advice would be that the planners of the event or the content team within the event team is to really chat with the sponsor and even ask them to do a custom session for them. So I did this once for a big retail event in Montreal, and it was a Canadian-wide event. It was really big. And actually, we had a case study, but we contacted the content team and they said, well, you know what? We're going to do a custom session for you guys. What do you think your attendees would like to hear? And we will create the content for you guys. And so we went and we partnered with them basically and just created that amazing session that lasted 1 hour. And I think it was like 10,000 attendees at that event. And we were, you know, the flagship content of the day, you know, and we had it was a big auditorium, about 500 people came in. It was full pack. I was really happy. The team was happy. The event managers, the planners, everybody was happy because the content was right on the spot for the attendees, and it was good for us also as a sponsor, being there and doing a customized session for them. So I think it's really about partnering, and it's not just about, hey, I have a case study, can you squeeze it in, or can we talk? Can we actually feel what are your KPIs on your end and what are my KPIs, and make them together? So I think it's all about conversation, but early on, that's really important. Early on, please.
Absolutely. So again, if we're thinking of all the different stages of the event journey, if you're brought in right at that beginning and I've got something I know is worthwhile based on your audience. And again, that goes with the organizer, really knowing who their audience is, as Robert and Melissa were saying, like listening in as to who they are, what they're looking for, what their pain points are, what their interests are in, then you're only supplying worthwhile content and experiences to them as well.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, we received a question before as far as managing expectations as well for sponsors and exhibitors. So how would you suggest that organizers help to manage expectations of what can be achieved during virtual activations?
I think you need to really speak to them and let them know that, it really there is an onus on them to engage as well. I mean, you really do need to get involved if it's virtual in the platform or if it's in person, really speaking to, the people that around you and making sure that you have visibility there. I think the more you engage, the more people will understand the expertise that you have to offer. I think you need to engage at all stages of the event journey to really get the most out of it. So by attending sessions, taking part in roundtables, responding to community Q&A, for example, being active in your booth. All of this really builds credibility, and then it also creates that authentic connection with attendees. So I think when you do engage throughout the event journey and you tie that in with qualified leads, then your conversations are going to be more tailored. They're going to be richer post-event, which of course will lead to better ROI.
Absolutely. And that kind of goes with, again, that mentality, and you would know those types of salespeople on the floor. Like if you're just going to an event to collect as many cards as possible, whether it's in person, virtual, or hybrid, that's not what it's about. It's about the relationships. It's about having those genuine and authentic conversations that are happening at the show and will continue after, because again, it's relationships. It's all about that. So ROI, again, very, very big 3 letters right here. Eric, I'm going to throw this to you, and then Robert after, actually. So as far as criteria determining ROI as a sponsor, what do you look for when you're coming into an event and speaking with the organizer?
Yeah. So it's as I was saying earlier, it's super important to get an early conversation. But sometimes I receive packages like, okay, you should sponsor this. This is our packages. These are our levels. I'm not really interested in that. So sometimes I stop the planner to speak to me and say, hey, would you like to know what are my KPIs for the event? And I say, yeah, okay, yes, I can listen to you. And sometimes I always have 3 pillars. The first one is brand recognition, obviously. So my brand, the company, are we going to be there, big and bold, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my first one. The second one would be the sales lead, obviously, if I want to get clients for the company. And the third one will be hiring talents. So in the tech industry right now, hiring is really hard. So hiring came on top of all my sponsorship events for the last year or so. So depending on my 3 KPIs, and I have like numbers and goals to achieve. And sometimes some events will say, well, you will achieve all 3, which is not true. It's impossible. So I would like to get a planner and or an event producer talk to me and say, our event is more on the hiring side of your KPI, less on the sales one. And brand recognition, yes, but maybe hiring talent will be your goal. So I'd like to have that really open conversation with the event planner and say, hey, these are my 3 KPIs. Which one do you fill in? And how much with data? Show me data. So hiring talents, let's say, for instance, I sponsored an event in Quebec City. And right off the bat, I said, you won't get any sales lead. And I said, wow, I'm happy you're telling me the truth right now as we speak. But our event is a perfect fit for hiring talents. I said, perfect. So then I go back to my team internally and my PM and my team. Then I have, my sales team and I have my HR team. And I will make sure that they have the right tools and they're properly briefed. And I give them, as VP, I will give them a specific goal. So let's say hiring talent, I will say, I need like say 20 or 30 or 50 qualified candidates. If it's for sales, I need at least 10 good leads with 2 closings. So I will prep my team internally and make sure that with the organizer or the event organizer, I'll make sure that they have the right tool to do their work. And if they don't, then I will pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm not a happy camper here. I don't get the tools properly to get the jobs done. So yeah.
And Sina, I just want you to know, I see your question as far as innovative examples of virtual activations, and we're going to get there because we have some cool stories about that too. But going on that point right there, Eric, so Robert, hearing all of this from the supplier perspective, what do you feel that suppliers should be doing to help organizers help their sponsors achieve their KPIs and their goals to get that maximum ROI?
So it's a continuing conversation on what Eric just said. We've been talking to a lot of these organizations, and they're using a standard package of bronze, silver, gold, whatever you want to do, but it's not the objectives of the sponsorship, it's their objectives. So again, get the communication going, have those surveys. But the most engaged I have is I had a chance to work with a couple of associations that were struggling with sponsorships. And they were saying, we don't know what to do, or we're left at it, or people are not signing. Once we took it internally and reviewed it, we kind of like repurposed it and then restructured the packages based on the audience. I'm going back to the audience again. It's all to do with who is attending your event. And you can see if that's just, we just restructured the packages, worked with them. They allowed us to contact the exhibitors or the sponsors directly so we can demonstrate what it can do to make sure they were using all the benefits that were included in the package. And even the ones that sign up currently didn't know they had these other things happening. So they were using maybe 3 out of 10 features. So we brought them the value. We're able to get them better value. We didn't make their goal that they wanted, but we got damn close. So we're able to work with them. So it goes back to communication with the organizations or the working with the sponsors and understanding what they can bring, what they want to bring to the event. Not telling them this is what you're going to get. Asking them, and Eric's nailing it. If you're not getting your KPIs, why am I going to come? What am I going to do? I'm just going to let's not do the traditional 10 by 10 booth because I've always done it. Let's go outside that 10 by 10 booth and make something more interesting and bring value to everybody. Communication is key, talking with them. Remember, we may start a plan out in March for an event in September and hit a couple curveballs. So we're talking, we're doing touch points and we're talking together. I'm going to go on and on about this, but it's so important that we work with the associations, the sponsors, and knowing our audience that can just make everything a perfect and a great result.
Which perfectly segues into Sarab's question right here. So we have two world-class marketers, hello Melissa, hello Eric, on this panel. What data and insight about attendees are most valuable to you as an event sponsor? And Melissa, you also have sponsorship experience as well. So what are you looking towards when you're getting to know your audience to best define what they're going to, well, I almost made a loaded question right there, what they're going to be interested in. How would you define that? What are you interested in? What are you looking at?
Yeah, definitely where they're spending time, what kind of content are they looking at, what keeps them up at night, what are their pain points? This is really what you want to know as a sponsor, because that's how you're going to develop relevant content. I mean, you need to have the answer to those questions, and it's very valuable. I don't think organizers give it enough credit. I think just having that information on hand and being very detailed with it is super valuable to sponsors.
Yeah, I was. I'll leverage on this. There was an event I was about to sponsor because of COVID. It didn't happen, but it was a big event for smart building. It was in Cannes. Like it cost like $6,000 to go there. It's a huge, like hundreds of thousands of people going there, and they asked us attendees. So I was in the attendees hat, and they asked us, what are your goals? What do you want? And would you want to meet? Is it for sales? Is it for brand recognition? Or are you just looking for innovation and ideas and whatnot? So they were already prepping the attendees. And then after that, about a week before the show was canceled, I received a match. So I was like, wow, okay, this is good. So they're mapping people all together. You might be have a good relationship with Melissa because she does controllers for smart buildings, whatever. So I received a match, like a Tinder-ish type of approach. And no, I'm kidding. But we had this data that was there, and so I spoke with the sponsored people at the event. Maybe we should get and sponsor the event. And she said to me, I said, well, we're going to provide you with tons of data, tons of data. Interests, what they're looking for, what are the pain points, like Melissa was saying. But at the same time, also, they were providing me anonymous information about the users. So let's say, who are they exactly? So are they director level, manager, VP, C-suite, or CIOs? So I'll get the title of that person. Didn't get his name, but I'll get the title and the company name. So for me, that was really important as far as sales is concerned. A title and the company name, and with that I can say, okay, I will get at least 100 people that I can chit chat with. So it was easy for me to say to my sales team, hey, we got those 5 top companies, we need to trigger those CIOs and those CTOs, and we have them. We don't have their names yet, but once we go to the event, then we need to do our job and just trigger and find those people and get into a connection with them. So these are the kinds of data that before sponsoring a content or sponsoring an event, I need that information. If it's for hiring talents, I need to know every single detail of the attendees there. So if I'm looking for programmers, let's say, I need to know their level, their experience. So just give me data. If you don't give me that data, I will feel that I'm not gonna, get my target rights, and I want to achieve my objective. So give me data. If you don't have any data, I'm sorry, I won't sponsor you. So quantitative and qualitative information are uber important before I sign. And post event, super important again. If I don't have the data of who viewed me, who tried to contact me, or went to my sessions and whatnot, what they're looking for, I need that data. Sometimes, hey, the event is over. Thank you very much for your money. Bye now. No, I'm sorry. If you don't give me data post event, I won't come back next year. I'm sorry. I won't. And I did exactly that. One event, it didn't give me information that I needed. I'm sorry. She called me next year. I said, nope, I'm not giving you 20 grand for your event this year. Why? Well, you didn't give me any data last year. Bye.
And Robert, from a supplier perspective as well, and platform, what does that conversation look like? So again, the data before, the data during, the data after, so you can really leverage that experience both before the show, during the show, and after the show.
Ties into what we've been all talking about a bit before, especially the before part, like Eric's mentioning. If I don't have that going into the event, you're already starting off on a negative. So there's work to be done. So we're sponsoring this to get something in return. So the data is so important, and especially in the virtual world, we know every moment of how long Eric hovered over the booth or the tile, how long he stayed in, what he downloaded, how we can communicate with him, which allows us to rebrand it. Going back to Eric saying, I know you're on this and you downloaded this, and let me talk to you more about it. You'll never get this experience in person because it's a quick connect and you're moving on to the next lead. But in this world here, we can really, really take that minute or take the few minutes to take the knowledge out of it. So your virtual event provider or Showcare will make sure that all that data is captured, how we're relating it in real time and sharing it with everybody so we can get the most out of it at that moment. So it's timing is everything. Eric is not going to wait 2 years. He needs to hire tomorrow. So he needs that information to come to him within to make a decision or to have a value add put in there. And that's how we're keeping that direction going. And what am I trying to get to? That the organizers, the interaction with the I want to say buyer and seller, but it's organizer and the attendees, how we're bringing them, merging them together because they have a common interest. One wants a job, one wants a hire.
And what's interesting there too is because of the data, you can see what they're most interacting with, as we said. So if they're attending certain types of sessions, if they're hovering over a certain type of article, you know what they're interested in, and it will make that follow-up conversation or during conversation all the more richer because you're actually targeting it based on what they're most intrigued by. So it's a much warmer sales conversation as well, depending on whatever your goals are after the event, during the event, at all stages of the event. Super valuable. Okay, so Sina, I want to come back to your question because it's a fun one. So do you have examples of really cool, innovative sponsorship ideas for online events? So Eric, I'm going to throw this to you as far as, again, creating that FOMO through unique experiences. Can you share perhaps some of your stories?
Yeah. Well, I sponsored one event. It was an in-person event, and unfortunately, it's not online. But I'll have another idea for you for the online portion. I wonder if we could actually the idea what I was exposed to. I think it will work today with online also. So this event was a big retail event. It was huge, and the same one that I spoke earlier. And they actually hired a rainmaker. And I didn't know that. Yeah, rainmaker. Show me some money.
Yeah.
And so the rainmaker was like a concierge service. So as a sponsor, he called me, and he had, obviously, it was really notorious man within the industry. Everybody knew him. He had a lot of gray hair, and so everybody knew the guy. And what he was offering me was that basically, Eric, you just sponsored the event. The event is going. So what do you want? And he get me 15 minutes one-on-one with clients. And so he went to the clients and said, hey, you should absolutely meet Eric because he has something to offer that fits your needs. So he took the time to get the big brands, the big clients, what are your needs? Then came back to all the sponsors and say, what do you offer and how can I make a matchup with you guys? So it was really an in-person effect. So that rainmaker, it changed everything. So I had 3 meetings two I really wanted to meet, and one came out as a good lead for us. So that's one good idea. So maybe trying to find that rainmaker or that concierge service match between the sponsor and then the exhibitors and the attendees, the future clients or hiring clients, whatever the KPIs are. So that was one of the best moment in my sponsorship life. So after that, to promote your session within the event. So as a sponsor, I have a few sessions. So my team gets in, produces content, and then pushes it out. So I want to make sure that as a sponsor, I want to have the most viewed or most attendees within each session that I produce, because sometimes sessions there are many at the same time. You need to pick and choose whatever you want. So what I did is that I created a matrix pill, choose the red or blue pill type of approach, and it was an in-person event, so you had to choose between the red pill and the blue pill. So my team was dressed up with two bowls, and one was red pill and blue pill, and we're just going around the exhibition and saying, hey, do you choose the red pill or the blue pill? And everybody was like, what's that? Well, if you choose the red pill, everything's all good. You don't need us to change. You don't want to change anything in your business. You don't want to create new innovation, creative ideas. But if you choose the blue pill, then if you open it, you will see that there's something. But if you take it, you're gonna change. You have to commit yourself to a change. So obviously everybody was choosing the blue pill. They were opening the blue pill, and on the blue pill it was a little, all right, so this is the first step for change, for innovation and creativity. Please watch the session at 10:30 tomorrow and go there, and you will see how it starts. And my session was full of people. I was really happy. But that's as an exhibitor or a sponsor within the event. So I try to be creative as much as possible on each event. It applies to online, obviously, which you can make a push. Just make sure that everybody hear you, but do it in creative way. Also, there's the another good experience was the Microsoft event. So we sponsored a big Microsoft event. That was a good one also. It was in person. It was an hybrid mode. So I don't want to get in if I want to get into the hybrid mode yet. But
yeah, no, let's do that.
Okay, perfect.
Time moves by very fast, Eric.
Okay, good. So we sponsor about 5 big events at Microsoft every year, and because we have sub brands, and one of the brands we need to be there. It's a Microsoft tech stack thing, and so we have to be at Microsoft events. What I really love about hybrid is that Microsoft really understand how hybrid works. So in person versus online. And what they do is that there's a public space always in each Microsoft event. There's a huge public space where everything's happening. So all the little exhibitors go. You have to go through that space, physical space. And in there's a Q&A session running from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. It never stops, and it's streamed online to millions of people through their channel called Channel 9. This is Microsoft stream service. So you go on Channel 9, you have millions of people just watching the Q&A, and it's about 10 to 15 minutes each. So as a sponsor, I was able to buy in a slot, a 15-minute slot, and I was there. My team was there, and we had that visibility. It was recorded, it was shareable, it was online, it was live. That was amazing. And the people in person, actually, they went there because we created a rendezvous through creative work, and like I did, like the Matrix pill, red and blue. So we created a little buzz to say, hey, meet our CIO or CEO at that time, at that date. So that public space was filled, and use screens and the Q&A session. It was very, very casual type of approach. It's not very serious Q&A and sit down sofas and whatnot. So I think that mixing online, offline, and trying to get creative, like Microsoft is doing, I'm buying this. Like you want my money, I'm gonna give it to you.
Right there, that FOMO matches the KPIs, matches the ROI, goals, objectives, beautifully said. And creativity actually hits a really good point. So as I said, it's Ask Our Showcarians. So we had asked before, so questions that we started off with throughout from our chat, as well as anecdotes and stories from our greater community. So on the subject of creativity, Samantha Mele, account director with Idea Hunter, she mentioned, and Eric touched on this a bit as well, is thinking outside the box. So as far as those the pills, the red or the blue. Event organizers, we know how to plan events, but these different ideas that can come out by looking at other industries, by looking to see what our friends are doing, by just gleaning inspiration and ideas from other places, will make it all the more richer. And naturally, I'm giving a book suggestion, but creative curve, she also referenced. So one of the laws is consumption. So when you're attending these, discussions, when you're going to different sorts of events and you're seeing what's happening, you're getting all of these little dots. And then you're going to find a way to connect those dots to make that ultimate sponsor, exhibitor, attendee experience for your event. So we could keep going. And last time we did an hour. This time we're doing 45 minutes. And my gosh, I think we could agree that it goes by really, really fast. So before I get to the closing question, I would welcome you all to please subscribe to our newsletter. That way you can stay up to date with different events like this. We're going to be doing more Ask Our Showcarians on all different sorts of subjects. You've already been giving us some ideas for upcoming ones, so stay tuned on there. And please keep connected with us as well. As I said, our LinkedIn is in the chat. And for those who are watching this after and watching the recording or reliving the experience, let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what inspired you, and let's continue that conversation over on social media. So for the closing question, for kind of that mic drop moment, for that last sentence before we all go off on our day, our evening, whatever time zone we're in, I'm going to throw this to each of you. So if you could leave the attendees, the audience today, with one key takeaway, one message when it comes to creating that sponsor and exhibitor FOMO, what would it be? And we're going to start with Eric.
Good. So make sure that your sponsored or exhibitors have KPIs, first of all. So establish them with them. So I push my KPIs right off the bat, right at the beginning of the conversation, because I want to make sure that the event is tailored to me. Open the conversation as quickly as possible, as early as possible with your sponsor and your exhibitors. And at the end of the day is make sure you can deliver KPIs. Just make it real. So KPIs, conversation, early conversation, and deliver.
Honest transparency, KPIs, delivery. Beautiful. Melissa, what would be your mic drop?
I would say manage your sponsorship relationships before, during, and after the event journey. I can't say that enough. I just think, a lot of organizers kind of drop the ball there. So, you have a great discussion up front maybe, but then you kind of, lose that contact. And I think you really need to stay connected throughout and really make sure they're getting the most out of what you promised them.
Mm-hmm. And then supporting them along the way to make sure that they keep optimizing and really leveraging all the possibilities. Absolutely. Robert, last but not least, what is your mic drop takeaway?
Goes back to the beginning, understanding your audience or knowing your audience. Because if you're going to get Eric's KPIs and manage your sponsorship relationships, they all need to fuel this. So if you don't know who you're talking to or who you're expecting, it's not going to happen. So I really understand your audience and learn their behaviors.
Yeah. Having those conversations and really, really honing in on what they're looking for, what their needs are, what their preferences are. Mm-hmm. Awesome. So on behalf of our Showcarians today, on behalf of the greater community, on behalf of Showcare, we want to thank Robert, Melissa, and Eric for taking part and sharing their insight, their stories, and their knowledge. Want to thank the chat for participating, and to the future viewers as well. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to hear what insight you've gleaned from this and how we can continue to create those FOMO experiences so our exhibitors are knocking down the doors to become sponsors, and our sponsorship and our events just go to a whole new level. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you soon. Bye for now.